The Zephyrian armada stretched across the void like a constellation of malice, 10,000 vessels strong, each one bristling with plasma cannons and neutron torpedoes. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Wrath, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. The human colony of New Geneva hung before them like a ripe fruit, defended by nothing more than a handful of mining platforms and cargo haulers. Such arrogance, Kethvar mused, his forearms crossed behind his back. The humans truly believe their reputation will protect them. His tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Veltos, shifted nervously. Admiral, the intelligence reports suggest we should exercise caution. The humans have proven unpredictable in previous encounters. Kethvar's mandibles clicked in amusement. Unpredictable? They're primitives who stumbled into space barely 3 centuries ago. What could they possibly do against the might of the hegemony? The answer came not in words, but in absence. The quantum communication array, which had been humming with chatter from the fleet's 10,000 ships, fell silent. Not the silence of damaged equipment or jammed signals. The silence of something far more profound. "Sir," Veltos reported, his voice barely above a whisper, "we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system." On the main display, space itself seemed to ripple. Stars that had been visible moments before vanished behind curtains of twisted spacetime. The fabric of reality folded and unfolded like origami in the hands of a master craftsman. "What is this?" Kethvar demanded, but his question was answered before Veltos could respond. From the depths of space, where moments before there had been nothing but empty void, shapes began to emerge. Not ships, at least not ships as any known species understood them. They were geometries that hurt to look at directly, structures that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the universe should allow. The first human vessel materialized beside the Dominion's Wrath, with the casual ease of a predator appearing beside its prey. It was smaller than a frigate, barely 200 meters long, but it radiated a presence that made the massive Zephyrian dreadnought seem insignificant by comparison. "Impossible," Kethvar breathed. "They don't have the technology. Our intelligence—" "Your intelligence," came a voice that seemed to speak directly into the minds of every being on the bridge, "failed to account for what humans do when they're truly threatened." The voice belonged to Captain Elena Vasquez, though her physical form remained invisible. The humans had learned in their brief but violent history among the stars that sometimes the greatest weapon was not the ability to destroy, but the ability to simply not be where your enemy expected you to be. "You see," the voice continued, conversational despite the circumstances, "when the hegemony declared war on humanity 3 years ago, you made a critical error in judgment. You assumed we would fight you the way everyone else fights, with bigger ships, more guns, superior numbers." Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, similar conversations were taking place on 10,000 bridges. Human voices, calm and patient, explaining with the tone of teachers addressing particularly slow students. "But humans," Captain Vasquez continued, "don't fight fair. We don't fight with honor. We fight to win, and we've had 3 years to prepare for this moment." Kethvar's tactical display showed the impossible. His massive fleet was surrounded. Not by visible ships, but by gravitational signatures that suggested the humans had somehow weaponized space itself. The enemy vessels phased in and out of normal space-time like ghosts, never staying in one location long enough to be targeted, but always present enough to remind the Zephyrians of their presence. "The thing about humans," another voice joined in, this one belonging to Admiral Chen, commander of the human forces, "is that we don't just adapt to survive. We adapt to thrive. Your superior numbers? We made them irrelevant. Your advanced weapons? We made them useless against targets they can't hit." "This is impossible," Kethvar repeated, his voice cracking. "Dimensional warfare is theoretical. No species has ever been as stubborn as humans when we put our minds to something," Captain Vasquez interrupted. "Did you know that after the hegemony's ultimatum, every human physicist, every engineer, every mathematician in our colonies worked on a single problem? Not how to build better weapons, but how to rewrite the rules of engagement entirely. The reality of the situation began to dawn on the Zephyrian admiral. The humans hadn't brought a fleet to fight 10,000 ships. They had brought something far worse. They had brought the understanding that conventional space warfare was obsolete. "Your move, Admiral," came another human voice. Younger, almost playful. Lieutenant Commander Torres, Kethvar would later learn, age 26 and the primary architect of the technology that had made this moment possible. 10,000 ships all sitting in normal space, all vulnerable to weapons that don't technically exist in the same dimension you do. Around the Zephyrian fleet, space continued to fold and unfold. The human vessels, if they could even be called vessels, existed in a state of quantum superposition, present and absent simultaneously, visible only when they chose to be observed. The beauty of dimensional warfare, Admiral Chen's voice carried across the void, is that it doesn't matter how many ships you bring. Numbers become meaningless when your enemy can strike from angles that don't technically exist. Kethvar looked at his tactical officer, whose face had gone pale with the realization that they were not just outmatched. They were facing an enemy that had fundamentally changed the nature of warfare itself. "What do you want?" Kethvar asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Nothing," came the unified response from the human forces. "We want nothing from you. We want nothing from the hegemony. We want to be left alone. And if we refuse?" The silence that followed was not empty. It was pregnant with possibilities, heavy with implications. In that silence, Kethvar understood that the humans were not threatening him. They were simply waiting. Finally, Captain Vasquez spoke again, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "Then you'll discover that humans, when pushed to their absolute limit, don't just break the rules, we rewrite them entirely." The Zephyrian fleet, 10,000 strong, turned and retreated into the depths of space. Behind them, the humans returned to their dimension-spanning silence, guardians of a new age of warfare that they alone understood. New Geneva remained untouched, its inhabitants unaware that the future of human survival had just been secured not through strength, but through the uniquely human ability to think beyond the possible.